let's talk about JD Vance, shall we?
Yes.
Here is here's JD Vance. Apparently was on a podcast called What's Left, which my understanding is like a post leftist podcast in 2022, hosted by podcaster Amy Therese and podcaster Oliver Bateman. And JD Vance was a guest on there. And this is what JD Vance had to say. Now, to be fair, this was in, when was this?
It was like early 2022, like January 2022.
So this is over 2 years ago. Maybe his perspective has evolved since then.
Okay, look, here's a situation. Let's say Roe versus Wade is overruled. Ohio bans abortion, in 2022 or 2000, let's say 2024. And then, every day, George Soros sends a 747 to Columbus to load up disproportionately Black women to get them to go have abortions in California. And of course, the left will celebrate this as a victory for diversity. That's kind of creepy.
Health justice is only exterminate working class Black people.
Something like that could, that would be a really weird turn of events that could happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, if that happens, do you need some federal response to prevent it from happening? Because it's really creepy. And, I'm pretty sympathetic to that, actually. Okay, look, here's
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit here. What JD Vance is saying. One, he's not spitballing when he talks about banning of abortions, right? I mean, because he's actually like, let's say 2022. And then he goes, no, wait. Okay, let's go 2024. I mean, he's trying to get an accurate date as to where these abortion bans are going to happen, which of course he supports wholeheartedly. And then he brings up the boogeyman of Soros. I should tell you that Soros is a billionaire. Elon Musk has 20, 30 times more billions of dollars than George Soros. I just want to put things into perspective. As much of a boogeyman as he is. So he's sending in 747s as if like there's 747s full of women who can sort of like plan. Maybe he's doing it on a daily basis. Maybe it's like a abortion air or something that JD Vance imagines. And of course, it's interesting that JD Vance says Black women. What he really means is poor women, because women who have money would be able to fly out by themselves, but he decides to refer to them as Black women. And there has to be a federal response. What could that federal response be? That federal response could only be an abortion ban across the country.
Right.
I mean, and you couldn't be more explicit about this.
Targeting people from the federal government who are crossing state lines to get the health care that they need. And we probably shouldn't gloss over the fact that he also just sprinkled in anti-Black racism in there, and said that Soros was rounding up disproportionately Black women to go have abortions in California. He said this in 2022. That's when Dobbs happened, when Roe was overturned. Have we seen, that we know of, Soros rounding up Black women to get abortions in California? I know what we have seen. We've seen women being prosecuted by the state for trying to get abortions. We've seen women hemorrhaging and bleeding out and having incredibly difficult life-threatening experiences because they're unable to get the health care that they need. And we are seeing some women having to go out of state. It's an incredibly burdensome, cumbersome process. But
people are trying to set up programs to help women go out of state to get abortions. I don't know why you would fly to California from Ohio as opposed to like, I don't know, going to a state that's closer,
Right.
Going to Illinois by car. But nevertheless, that's the fantasy that that Vance needs to set up to justify a national abortion ban, but that's what he wants.
And more than the national abortion ban, he's basically talking about having some sort of ICE or police force. I mean, back in the day, there were slave catcher laws where, like, if people were fleeing one state to go to another, there would be officers deployed to take them back. Like, he's trying to federalize a response where there's some sort of law enforcement authority that cracks down on women leaving the state that they live in to go get healthcare in another state, which I don't know if that sounds like small government to me. It does sound like Christian theocracy and fascism, and it also does sound like you're not taking some neutral position on states' rights. You're taking the position that the federal government will enforce state laws, but the red states that crack down on reproductive health care for women and people who can get pregnant, not the ones that have access to abortion care. So, like, the rollout for the Harris campaign has been really good at finding these creepy little things about JD Vance. They're doing what the Trump campaign should have been doing this entire time. Hard. Like, Trump is 78. It's smart to run against Vance as well. And Vance, everyone's defined how they feel about Donald Trump already in the country.
100%. That's what's going on here. This is like, and Vance is such a target-rich, situation here. And part of it is, I think, because, he came into politics late. And so he didn't realize, like, how he had to sort of, like, temper. He also doesn't seem to realize, like, how he thinks it's creepy, the idea of, like, people being flown to get healthcare to a different place. First of all, Americans do that all the time, going to Mexico or going to India or Thailand for medical procedures all the time because it's cheaper, frankly. But it's fascinating. He doesn't realize what's creepy about what he's talking about. It is the ban on abortion. Calling from a 828 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
My name's Matt, and I'm calling from Hickory, North Carolina. Well, technically, I'm on the interstate in South Carolina, but
So wait, are you going north or are you going south?
I'm going south from North Carolina to Georgia to see my best friend, and my wife's driving me.
Did you go get some fireworks at south of the border?
No. That's too much. That's a waste of money.
I know it. I know. What's on your mind?
Well, I was calling because you had brought up a few times what is it about Biden, Zionism coming from watching the movie The Exodus with Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And so I converted to Reform Judaism when I was like 18, and when I did, I read
from what?
I read Exodus.
From what?
When I was converted, from like just like generic Christianity / like agnosticism.
Okay.
My family's not really religious, and then I converted to Reform Judaism. We have like a small congregation where I live.
Okay.
And then you're 100% right. That book, The Exodus, will make you a gung-ho Zionist. That's for sure. And plus all the other stuff you read as someone who converts to Judaism, you get a lot of Zionism, like the history of Zionism, Zionist talking points, all that kind of stuff when you like research the religion of Judaism. And it wasn't really until, let's see, I was like in 2006. It wasn't until like maybe like the second Obama administration where I was finally like, this shit is sick.
Yeah.
Like these people, yeah. Like when you, it was like really when you started, like when I started finding out about like the settlers, which like you never find out, like they never talk about that. They may talk about, like, you may hear about like like rocket attacks from, the Palestinians or whatever.
Yep.
But then at no point did I ever hear anything about like settlers, like the settlers in the West Bank. And then, or, like that they call it, Judea and Samaria.
Yep.
And like, I converted to Reform Judaism. So, I don't believe, I'm not super, like I'm not a fundamentalist. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. I know exactly what I mean.
But yeah, so I read the book The Exodus. I've never seen the movie, but I read the book The Exodus, and at least twice, I think. And it was just like, I loved it. And the guy who wrote the book, he also wrote some other books. What is it? Like, I think one's called like Mila 18.
Is it Leon Uris who wrote it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then he also wrote a book that I read too after I read The Exodus. It's like, kind of like a sequel. It's called The Hajj. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's essentially the Exodus story, but from the Palestinian perspective.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, it's like, in it, he portrays the Palestinians as sympathetic, but it's also the same thing as, from what I can remember, it's like, it's these poor Palestinians who are just caught up between the Zionist or the Israeli government, and then
noble savages.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, like I said, because I read it when I was like in my early 20s. I'm like 35 now, so I can't really remember it that well. But it was also just like it was more like it's not the Palestinians' fault. It's all the evil Arab government's fault. As far as like why they're in this situation to begin with, it was always put on.
Yes.
So like the Egyptian and the Saudis and the Iraqis and stuff. And so for a long time, that really did inform my my views of like Israel and stuff. And then, like I said, just slowly over time. And then, like I said, by the time of Obama's second term, I was just like, I'm done with this.
Commendable.
Go ahead.
Jordan and Egypt have not necessarily been particularly
Mm-hmm.
kind to the Palestinian people. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge leap between the idea that there's a responsibility of Jordan and Egypt to absorb the Palestinian people or something is,
Mm-hmm.
and that the fact that they're not justifies Israel's response is creepily analogous. And I don't think you can go too far with this analogy, but creepily analogous to the Nazi regime's sort of claims like, why don't some of these other countries take in the Jews? They won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do it on the basis of like Caucasian, but they're saying like, well, why won't these other countries take in these Jews? They're not taking them in, and they're becoming our problem. And that is, it's just not a legitimate. It may be the case that Jordan doesn't want to absorb Palestinians, that Egypt and even if you were able to put aside the sort of like moral implications of like why should they, the idea that like even using that as some type of justification for what ultimately becomes ethnic cleansing or genocide is just grotesque, particularly based upon history. But appreciate the call.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks. High value male Kowalski. Did that Reform Judaism caller say he was having his wife drive? What a low value male thing to do. Only a high value man will insist upon driving themselves wherever they go, even if you're in a plane, boat, train. Needless to say, I'm on a lot of no rider lists to this day.
Gosh, that's how, I'm like a corrupted liberal independent woman. I will always drive unless my fiance is designated driving if we ever have a car.
Oh, no, my wife.
I like to be in control.
My wife drives me everywhere.
See, there we go. Soy boys here.
I'm a horrible driver.
Soy boys.
For the safety, but also,
all these soy boys
nice
over
to be
here.
chauffeured.
Not me. I drive all the time.
Well, you're also
Mila. I've driven with Mila though.
How's that going?
I'm like white knuckled. I'm trying not to show her that I'm terrified, but she's actually a very good driver. Let's do this clip of JD Vance. Just give a sense of like how much fun this guy is. He's super fun, because then we got a clip of CNN's Harry Enden, and it is stunning. I mean, aside from like, look, I get why we have a problem with JD Vance. He's got this sort of creepy, he's for a federal abortion ban. He's got this creepy sense of trying to repackage the patriarchy and this trad male stuff. But he also apparently is extremely unappealing to just about everybody else. Here is Harry Enton right now. Excuse me. No, this is Vance at a behind-the-scenes rally in Radford, Virginia.
Hey guys, JD Vance here at Radford, Virginia. I thought I'd take you behind the scenes a little bit. When you
so
get
personable.
To the event, they've got a ton of crap for you to drink and eat.
Crap.
3 bottles of Diet Mountain Dew, about a dozen Snickers, a bag of chips. If I ate even half this stuff, of course, I'd balloon up like crazy. This is the energy that powers the presidential and vice presidential campaign. Of course, I'm honored to be supporting President Trump. I'm honored to be his running mate. If you want to help us, chip in $5, chip in $15 to get the message out and to get people to the polls. This election is so important. Your resources help us do the things we need to win it.
So wait a second. He's appealing to people by saying, like, look at all this crap that we have to eat. Like, is he complaining? I can't tell.
I think
wasn't he saying the other day about how delicious Mountain Dew was?
Well, that's not Diet Mountain Dew. That's a regular Mountain Dew. Look at how far we've fallen as a country. Remember when Donald Trump was at the White House with that bounty of McDonald's? And then behind the scenes, a few Snickers and some Mountain Dew? He could not look less relatable. He's a rich guy trying to be like, look at all this. Don't you like this, you little snoveling little piggies out on the street? Look at this. We got all this Snickers and Mountain Dew. It's powering our campaign. See you later.
Put just a still image of him back up for a second, Bradley. Is he dressing like Donald Trump now?
Yeah.
Is he wearing like a blue suit and a red tie all the time?
Power tie.
Am I just imagining this?
The longer the tie, the longer you knew what I mean.
What's going on? Why is he dressing exactly like Donald Trump? It's just bizarre.
He's also torturing himself because he's on Ozempic and he can't even have any of that stuff.
Well, let me just say, all right, let me just do this because he's out there. He's deriding the Mountain Dew and the crap of the candy bars. I may not get it because I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Worcester, Mass. I just may not. Like, this may really resonate with Midwesterners or something, because he's salt of the earth.
Right.
And he really knows how to talk to his people. Let's tune into what CNN's Harry Enton says about this, because maybe I just don't get it.
He does worse in his home region at minus 16 points than he does in the average of all polls, which is a minus 5-point net favorability rating. So the people who know him best, the region that knows him best, they like him even less than America likes him. And of course, as you pointed out, again, in that kind intro, is he is historically unpopular for a VP nominee coming out of his first convention as the VP nominee.
All right, so let's specifically look at some former Republican presidential candidates. What do you see?
Yeah, you mentioned Sarah Palin. How about Dan Quayle as well? These are two folks who I think most people remember as not being particularly popular. The amazing thing was coming out of their conventions, they actually were pretty popular. Quayle with a plus 15-point net favorability rating. Sarah Palin with a plus 26-point net favorability rating. Again, Vance at minus 5 points is just off the charts and falling off the chart in the wrong direction. Not up above the chart, but down below the chart. The fact is he is historically unpopular, even more so than VP nominees who, of course, went on to infamy. At least in
right. So you
pause it for 1 second. Let me just say this, okay? All right, because all right. So maybe he's even more unpopular with the people that know him. That like he's, but let's also just be clear here that a lot of people say the important thing is not whether you're popular or unpopular, but that you are, that you stand out, that you're a superlative. And so the value of being the least popular ever could be worth something.
Any press is good press.
Donald Trump is good press. People are talking about him at least.
Yeah.
And, in the context of, let's say, a high school yearbook or something, they have the most popular, and then sometimes they have the least popular. And if you can get in there, you're in there. You're in there for good. So
you're a part of history, regardless.
Exactly. Go ahead.
The cable news has been saying, "Oh, is he going to be the Sarah Palin on this ticket?" I'm like, what? Are we misremembering? Are we? Yeah.
Well, like Sarah Palin,
the base loved Palin. Yeah.
The base loved Palin coming out of the convention. Now, I specifically remember saying at that time that Sarah Palin is the pick that's going to keep John McCain from getting destroyed in a landslide.
Yes.
But it's also the pick that's going to keep him from winning at any point at all. I mean, she was basically like a burning tire around his neck. JD Vance is not going to be either one of those things.
Exactly.
But he's going to be what Donald Trump needed was to expand. And JD Vance is going to do nothing for him. And at one point they're going to basically just say, like, I don't even want you. Don't be campaigning. I want you to do something else. Like maybe you could be my driver.
Yeah, I need my pool clean.
We got to put you to exactly.
Can you phone bank JD?
Ted Cruz.
Get on the phone. Call Peter Thiel. Tell him I need more money.
And when I say phone bank, I
don't want you to do anything else. Just get more money. More money.
Phone bank means making calls to put money in the bank.
The Enton has had a couple of these reports because I think he can't believe how unpopular JD Vance is. Go ahead.
Nominees who, of course, went on to infamy, at least in
Well, I mean, right. So you look at what happened to those two and they plunged. Some may say, well, maybe there's nowhere to go but up for Vance, but in margins, that's not true. It can get worse.
It can get
definitely
definitely
just don't know
worse.
which way it will go. All right. So when this comes to the broader country, you talked about how the area that knows him best right now and the favorability likes him least, but undecided voters. That's what this is about. There are more of them than a lot of people care to admit.
This could be bad.
And prior to the seismic shift in the race, many of them may have gone for Trump.
Could have.
Now, who knows what they're going to do? How does Vance play there?
He doesn't play well with them at all. His favorable rating is just 5%. Just 5% hold a favorable rating. 29% hold an unfavorable rating. That makes a net favorability rating of minus 24 points. That's worse than his net favorability ratings overall. The fact is, if undecided voters are going to make up their mind based upon J.D. Vance, they're going to make it and make the choice for Kamala Harris.
5% favorable?
5% favorable.
Ever heard of anything like that?
I really haven't. There's still a lot of folks who are undetermined on him, but that 5% is not something I think is going to go on his wall of fame.
All right, Harry.
Well, to be fair, when people see how charismatic he is and how, how he's not calling for a national abortion ban and he's so friendly to couches, I think people could turn around a little bit. That's all I'm saying. Well, I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying
couch your expectations, please.
It's not great that he's having to spend any time being like, I did not have sexual relations with the couch.
Well, this is
allegedly.
Well, this has unleashed the ability of like the leftists or liberals or whoever wants to see him defeated to shitpost against the Republicans. And this is what's fun is that now the Democrats are finally get to run against.
Exactly.
This is what party unity looks like.
Exactly.
Hey, so we all remember the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's presidential immunity case. Well, get this. The leader of the Heritage Foundation think tank has said the second American Revolution will be bloodless if the left allows it to be. All sparked by the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Well, Ground News found nearly 50 sources reporting on it with zero coverage coming from the right. Why? Well, going through these articles, you can see most of them tie this project to Trump. Like this report from the DCCC writing Trump's so-called Project 2025 manifesto advocates for a nationwide abortion ban, quote, silencing his political enemies and more. With presidential elections not too far away, this is an extremely important story, and you wouldn't know about it unless you intentionally diversify where you get your news from, which is why Ground News created their blind spot feed. It's to surface major stories with little reporting coming from either the right or the left. Our longtime sponsor really simplifies empowering yourself with knowledge so we're fully aware where our information is coming from and how that influences our reporting or lack thereof. an important mission under our current political climate. Best of all, they're offering my viewers 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that gets me access to all their features. So head to ground.news/majority or scan my QR code to help support an independent news platform working towards a more transparent media landscape.